Hi, Misfits. This is Kevin.
And this is Kate.
Welcome to Horrorwood.
How was that chocolate?
Delicious.
I'm so glad. I just opened it today.
What was it? It was nuts and salt?
It was sea salt dark chocolate with almonds.
Oh,
I think my sister might have put it in my stocking at Christmas. I think.
delicious.
It was
also,
really good.
I walk over to Kate's, come in the door, am greeted by the lovely Frankie. And then there's just a charcuterie. Kate's offering me chocolates. I have a glass of red wine.
That's how we do it over here.
I am obsessed.
That's how we do it over here. It's called Thursday.
Oh, I thought you were going to say hospitality.
Just Thursday.
Thursdays are amazing over here. I'm obsessed with it.
You know what I'm obsessed with?
What?
Our new Patronian.
Yes.
Teely.
Teely.
I think that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for signing up as a Misfit Murderino. And you got in just under the wire, so you're actually going to be getting a creepy Valentine from us. Do I have anything else to say about that?
I do.
Oh,
Thank you, Teely.
yes, thank you.
But you're going to get something fun in the mail. Yay. And thanks for the support. We can use it.
Absolutely.
We love it.
We need it.
Mhm.
It's February.
How is this happening?
What happened?
Where is January?
It went bye-bye.
In a perfect world, January does go quickly because it is
Yes.
kind of the
It's
dreadful
the
month.
bleakest month. February, it's got a little something going because it's got the Super Bowl if you're into sports. And even if you're not, like, it's just fun to have Super Bowl parties or go to one.
Yeah, are you having a Super Bowl party?
We're not having one, but we're going to
Going
someone's
to one.
house. Yeah. And there's Valentine's Day if you're into that, which just, even if you're single, just means like there's chocolate out there. And then the day after Valentine's Day, that chocolate's on sale.
February 15th is the day of the candies.
The day of the candies. So I feel like there's a little bit more going on. Plus,
True.
it's a shorter month.
True.
So even though it is cold and bleak, at least here in Chicago sometimes, we get through it faster.
We do. Today we're talking about how an independent horror movie project, which sounds like fun to me,
Sure.
led to the brutal murder
Oh.
of a young 28-year-old woman in Pennsylvania.
Well, damn.
Yeah. This was a lot. This was also weird. How this happened is insane to me.
Oh,
So let us get into this story.
let us.
Blaine Norris and Brian Trimble were two average guys from Pennsylvania
Okay.
who shared a passion for horror movies.
I see nothing wrong with that.
I don't either. I love horror movies. Big passion for them.
You do have big passion for that.
But I'm not a killer.
Oh,
So they weren't filmmakers, actors, or industry insiders. They have nothing to do with the entertainment industry other than they just love horror movies.
Okay.
And they're just two friends who had sort of dreamed of making their own movie together one day.
okay.
Their connection started through their day jobs. So both of them worked in tech, spending their 9-to-5s troubleshooting computer issues at an insurance company.
If I've ever heard of anything more boring, I don't know what it is. That sounds awful.
I know, right? Let me fix your computer to tell people they can't access their insurance.
That just sounds like the most monotonous job.
Yes.
No shade if you're an IT person at an insurance company, but like a little bit of shade.
So this insurance company is in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So there's an area of Pennsylvania. It's all sort of like these known towns that are very close to each other. I'd say
Okay.
Harrisburg is like the big one. And then you have Pennsboro, which is right across the river, which is where Brian lives. And then Hershey, which is like not
that one
too
I've heard
far-
of.
Right. So yeah, I looked at the map. It's all sort of in the same area.
Okay.
So Brian and Blaine worked together at their boring jobs, and their conversations revolved around their mutual love of horror movies.
Okay.
That's how they bonded.
Sure.
Brian Trimble appeared to have a stable and happy life. However, he did have multiple sclerosis. So he was dealing with that medical issue, which does suck. But he was married to Randi Trimble, a woman who, by all accounts, was a great person. People loved her. Kind, heartwarming, hardworking.
All the good things.
Deeply loved by her family and friends. So I want to talk a little bit more about Randi specifically.
Okay.
Randi was born on December 15th, 1974, as an only child. She grew up as the first grandchild in a family that adored her.
Aww.
She was raised by her mother, Nancy Chavez, who worked hard as a single parent to provide. Randi was surrounded by supportive adults and was known for her bright personality and love for life. She had a deep appreciation for Winnie the Pooh, stuffed bears, and board games. And from a young age, she thrived in music and the arts.
She sounds awesome.
She's fabulous.
I would have wanted to be her friend as a kid.
Same. She took tap dancing lessons, twirled the baton. Did you ever twirl a baton?
Oh my God, yes. I thought I was going to be a baton twirler.
Yeah.
Like a professional one. And I got a little baton and it had tassels on the end.
Oh.
Because only the good professional batons have tassels on the end. And I would do my little tricks and try to throw it. I wasn't good, but I did learn how to...
The finger ding.
Yeah, do the baton in between my fingers. And I'm pretty sure I read books about how to twirl a baton. Because that's what you did back then, because it was pre-internet. And so I was like, I need to learn how to twirl a baton. I probably looked it up in the encyclopedia. I don't know. I was cool, guys. Leave me alone.
I did the exact same thing, Kate. I had a baton.
Yes.
It did not have tassels.
You were an amateur then.
The lives we could have led.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's in the arts, tapping, twirling, and she was a gymnast as well.
Oh my gosh, all of my passions as a child.
Yes.
I was going to be a professional baton twirler and an Olympic gymnast.
Yes.
At the same time.
Which you can absolutely do.
Why not?
Of course.
Dream big.
She also played the flute.
Okay, I did not do that.
From the 4th grade all the way through high school.
Wow.
Following in her mother's footsteps. Randi attended Trinity High School, which was a private Catholic school in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. And there she became focused and disciplined as a student. And she excelled at her academics. She was great in class. She was taking on leadership roles, school plays, choir.
Wow.
And most notably, marching band.
All right. Well, she had the skills.
She was into it. She earned the title of drum major. She's flutes, tap. I would love to see her in a one-woman show.
What's the song in Miss Congeniality? She's wisdom and she's grace.
She's Miss United States.
That's what I think Randi Trimble is.
She even competed as a drum major for the Harrisburg Brass and Drum Corps. So after high school, Randi attended Bloomsburg University, where she continued her leadership as the drum major for the university marching band while maintaining a 3.8 GPA.
Wow. That is difficult to do.
Yeah. And then after that, she ultimately earns a full scholarship to go to graduate school, which she completes in 1999.
A full scholarship.
Full scholarship.
Damn.
So this is where she pursued a career, aside from all of these marching bands, arts,
all of her
everything.
Talents.
She pursued a career in speech therapy.
That's awesome.
She interned at Hershey Medical Center in Hershey, Pennsylvania, before securing a full-time job there.
Awesome.
So she's a speech therapist. She loved helping others, and her work meant a great deal to her. But she wasn't just career-driven. She was very responsible with money, which, God be with you, girl. Absolutely. That's not a skill we all have.
Kevin speaks from the heart.
I do. So speech therapist, Randi's fabulous. We love her. She's doing the work. And she's also very responsible with her money. So by the time she's 25, she buys her own house.
Wow.
Yeah.
The dream.
And impressive.
At that age.
Yeah. And that's for someone that young to be able to do that quickly. Like, she's a smart cookie.
That's pretty amazing.
So she had met Brian 5 years before they got married.
Okay.
So she would have been about 23, I believe, when they met. And they got married in September of 2000. From the outside, life seems good. Randi is excelling in her career, planning for the future, and she's looking forward to starting a family with Brian.
Great.
But while she was focused on building a strong life, Brian had other priorities.
Uh-oh.
So let's get back to Brian and Blaine for a
Okay.
second. Blaine Norris wasn't a filmmaker. He was a computer tech, remember? But his real passion, excusez-moi, wasn't in fixing computers. It was,
You don't say.
It was in making horror movies.
All right.
So he was completely obsessed with the genre, and he wanted to do his own thing. So he was like dead set on, I'm gonna make my own horror movie.
Okay.
He'd always mention iconic classics like Halloween.
Sure.
And A Nightmare on Elm Street. Two good ones to
Of
look up to, in my
course.
opinion. But Blaine didn't really have a majorly structured life. And I think he was married. There's two things. One article said that he wasn't married, but one mentioned that he was. So I'm going to go with the more reputable one from NBC and say that he was married, but it seemed like it was rocky because once all this shit gets underway, they break up.
I see.
He's film nerd, lived for like horror conventions, Comic-Cons, scary movie marathons.
I'm getting an idea.
Yeah,
I'm getting a
you
picture.
can get a picture, of course. And despite that passion, he had no experience, no film school, no professional training, just lots of enthusiasm and a dream.
Sure. Like so many do.
100%, which sometimes just isn't enough.
In fact, most of the time.
Most of the time, it's not enough. That's a problem. Norris got the idea to make his own movie, and he was inspired by the success of the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that?
I've never seen it. It got ruined for me. Like as soon as it came out that it was all fake.
Yeah.
I didn't really care about it anymore because the only reason people were talking about it is because people thought it was real.
Right.
And people were like flocking to the movie theaters. And then as soon as it came out that it wasn't real, I was like, well, then what's the point? And I never saw it. Also, back then, I wasn't super into horror movies, so.
Yeah, I fell for the marketing thinking it was real. But then my mom and I went to see it because it kept getting a lot of reviews that it was like really, really scary. But then I think it was a little maybe ahead of its time in how it unfurled because I watched it in theaters and did not like it.
Oh.
And I was like, this is what the fuck? My mom was like, boo.
Just in the movie theater, she's like, boo, thumbs
She like
down.
stood up and she's like, you didn't see anything. And I was like, no, I know, but I think that's the point.
Yeah.
Well, later in life, I was like, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
So Blair Witch Project is amazing. Go watch it. I think you and I should watch it sometime.
Okay.
And that would be fun. So the concept for Blaine's movie was Through Hike, a ghost story. THROUGH, Through Hike.
Like it was a hiking horror movie?
It's a horror thriller about a group of
Hikers? Okay, there it is.
who get stalked and killed one by one while trekking through the Appalachian Trail.
Got it. Okay.
It had all the makings of a slasher. Isolated location.
Sure.
Unsuspecting victims. And a relentless killer ghost.
A ghost.
Blaine was convinced that with the right execution, it could be his ticket into the industry.
Big goals.
I don't know why, but I almost, like in a bro-y way, wanted to say big goals, big holes.
It's not the vibe.
For these two, I think it was.
Ew.
Anyway, Brian Trimble and Blaine Norris's friendship took on a new dynamic when Blaine shared the movie idea.
Okay.
Brian was just as obsessed with horror movies, and he was like, yes.
He was probably like, I will
100%.
help you. Let me in on this.
He was like, I will do anything to help you with this.
Yeah.
And he was very excited about it. But Norris had a problem. He needed money.
That does tend to be a problem if you are trying to make something big.
Yeah, that's the thing. Making an independent film wasn't cheap, even with a low-budget approach. He needed funds for equipment, cast, locations, and at this point, to start, didn't have any investors lined up. Brian, however, did have access to money, or at least he thought he did.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to help fund the project, but there was one major obstacle: Randy.
Oh.
Randy was financially responsible, practical, and she was not about to throw thousands of dollars into a risky no-name horror movie.
Well, sure.
Absolutely on her side.
Yeah. They're in their 20s. These guys have zero film experience.
Exactly.
How much was he asking her for?
I don't know exactly, but he was asking her for a few thousand to start the project.
Yeah, just imagine like, hey, babe, it wasn't my idea and I have zero experience. I just like scary movies. This is going to be huge. We're going to be millionaires. I just need like several $1,000s.
And she's like, fuck no.
He's probably like,
Get out of my
why?
face. Yeah, she's like, no, this is a disaster waiting to
Yeah.
happen. I'm not doing this
Yeah.
for you. And so that's where everything sort of changes. And while Randy's focused on starting a family, Brian was secretly focused on this horror movie. I think at the same time that she said no, she was like, get out of this.
Okay.
This is not something that you need to be doing.
Okay.
So what started as a fun idea became something far more dangerous, and soon Through Hike would become more than just a failed film project. It would set off a tragic and devastating chain of events that no one could have imagined.
Oh, no.
The making of Through Hike was ambitious and chaotic.
I don't doubt it.
The project had all the enthusiasm of a passionate horror fan, but quickly ran into problems, money, logistics, and an unexpected departure of one of the cast members.
Okay.
So since Through Hike was a micro-budget indie project, Norris needed actors who were willing to work for little to no pay. At this point, once he started the project, he did find an investor.
Oh, okay.
Who was going to put $18,000 into the project.
I mean, that's nothing to cough at.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The investor was like, I'll fund this. Absolutely. I see your passion. I see your idea.
Yeah.
Let's go with it.
That's amazing.
And then Norris places a casting call in local Pennsylvania newspapers, which quickly attracted a group of hopefuls.
Sure.
Many of whom had little to no acting experience, but were eager to be part of the movie.
Yeah, of course.
One of those actors was Sean Gaston, a local movie theater projectionist who had always dreamed of working in film. When he saw the casting call, he jumped at the opportunity, excited to get involved in any way he could.
Aw, he's probably like so thrilled that it was being made in his hometown.
Yeah, and he was like, let me at it. One of the biggest names attached to the project was Robin Griggs, a former soap opera actress.
I was going to say, that name sounds so familiar.
Yeah, known for her roles as Stephanie Hobart on One Life to Live and Maggie Corey on Another World. Griggs was originally from Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania. I probably said that so wrong. Tunkhannock is probably more along the lines. And she'd been in the entertainment industry for years, but she'd taken a break from acting after being fired from Another World in 1995. She had started returning to independent horror films in the early 2000s, drawn to the genre's raw and passionate storytelling. Fun fact, while I was looking her up, apparently Robin, in some weird turn of events, became friends with John Wayne Bobbitt.
Wow. Amazing.
And she said that there was nothing more than friends.
Yeah.
But she credits her firing from Another World in 95 to that friendship because she said that the producers did not like that at all.
Really?
Like, it was bad publicity.
That's interesting.
The producers came back and said, no, that's not it. We just wanted to take the role in a different direction.
Well, of course, that's what they say.
Right. But wild.
Weird.
I saw that and I was like, what the fuck? Am I reading this right?
What a weird connection.
I know. John Wayne Bobbitt is connected to this story. Ew.
Bizarre. I remember when it happened. I remember like watching it on the news and I was like, oh my God.
I remember my mom watching it and she's like, yeah, go
Lorena.
She's like, that bitch knew what was up. Not her words exactly. She said it more crass, but like.
She said it more crass. Amazing.
I tell ya, I watched his movies.
Ugh.
It's weird. Don't do it.
I don't plan to.
So for Norris, landing Robin Griggs was like a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that's huge.
She was the only actor in the film with real television experience, and her involvement gave Through Hike a level of credibility that other indie horror projects lacked.
Yeah.
However, unfortunately, her time on the project was short-lived. Shortly before filming was set to begin, Griggs broke her arm and had to drop out.
Well, shit. So she was the cast member that had to leave.
Yes.
Got it.
Leaving Norris scrambling to fill the role.
Yeah, that sucks.
So her departure was a big loss for the movie. Without her, the project lost the most recognizable name, and Norris had to rely on lesser-known actors.
Yeah, sure. And also, how many name actors are in Pennsylvania?
Right. I mean, a lot of the people that he did find for this were like in the local theater scene.
Sure.
Which is cool, but like
not big names.
Not big names or anything like that.
Or TV experience.
Right. One of the replacements brought in was Amber Muncie, who had done some regional theater and was eager for the opportunity to do it. Muncie, along with fellow actors Aaron Lampert and Sean Gaston, became the core cast of Through Hike.
Okay.
Once casting was done, the production moved to the Appalachian Trail, where Norris had chosen to shoot the movie. He wanted the movie to have an authentic, gritty feel, real locations, real isolation, and real fear. But filming in the middle of the woods for days at a time was no easy task. Also, remember, we're going off the Blair Witch Project, so we're in the woods. We're on a hike. Premises are paralleling.
Got it.
Actors recalled how food and equipment were scattered in grocery bags all over their makeshift base camp.
Ew.
Making the entire shoot feel like a survival experience in itself.
Well, shit. I mean, a lot of independent films are like that.
Of course. Have you ever done independent films, Kate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing.
Is it?
Tell us about them.
Maybe another time.
Okay.
Maybe on Crime Couch at
Crime
some
Couch.
point. Yeah, we'll talk about it on Crime Couch.
Ooh.
Maybe after this
If
episode.
you want to hear about Kate's independent film movie making, join us on Patreon.
Yeah, we have a little series that we started. Well, I don't know if we'd call it a series.
I think so.
A little post-show chatter.
Post-show after chat.
A little video where we called the Crime Couch. We just chat about the episode and whatever else we feel like talking about.
Whatever the hell we want to say.
And they're quick. They're like 10 minutes.
Yeah. Patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast.
I say they, like we've done so many of them. We've done one.
We've done one, but we're doing another one today.
We are.
Yay.
So it's a trend.
So yeah, food all over the place. Everything's a mess.
Yeah.
No trailers, no craft services. Just a handful of people trying to make a movie happen.
No union rules in place.
No
No
safety
real
nets.
protections that have been established.
One of the biggest issues was the lack of proper film equipment. Originally, Norris had planned to have Brian Trimble serve as the movie's cinematographer.
Okay.
Trimble had promised to bring his personal camera and gear and shoot the movie himself. He did have some equipment.
All right.
However, as the production got closer, the actors started to notice that Trimble and his camera are nowhere to be found. Why isn't he here? Why isn't he doing the filming? Like, what's going on?
So who was doing the filming at that point?
It was Norris himself had started to do that. Robin Griggs was one of the first to call this issue out.
I would imagine.
Yeah, questioning how Norris planned to block and light scenes without a director of photography on set.
Yeah.
She said, quote, "You can't block a scene without the camera there."
Yeah.
And quote, she quoted.
Kind of important.
But Norris brushed off concerns and assured that, you know, the movie would go on, he would be there. But shortly after the filming began, Trimble officially backed out of the project,
Well, shit.
citing his wife's disapproval and his worsening multiple sclerosis symptoms
Oh.
as reasons for the departure.
Okay.
So this meant not only losing a cameraman, but also losing the equipment needed to shoot the movie.
Yeah, things are kind of falling apart.
Things are falling apart really fast.
And then I know Robin Griggs eventually drops out.
She breaks her arm, she's gone, everything comes back. But yeah, at the beginning of the project, when they're trying to get everything ready, Norris isn't there. Sorry, excuse me. Trimble isn't there to do it. And they're like, where is he? He's a vital part of this project.
Did you say Griggs eventually comes back?
No, she doesn't.
Oh, I don't know why my brain went there.
That's okay. No, she breaks her arm and is gone.
Okay.
Trimble's absence also caused financial problems. The investor who said that he was going to put the $18,000 into the project,
Yeah, what happened to that person?
he pulled out
Oh.
after some of Trimble's test shots.
So Trimble did shoot some things?
He shot a few things to begin with.
Okay. And the investor was like, these guys don't know what they're doing.
They have no clue what they're doing.
Okay.
And he pulls the 18 grand and walks.
Good for him. Did
know.
Robin actually break her arm, or was she like,
think
I broke my arm?
I mean, I think she did.
Okay.
I don't think she would lie to get out of it. But, you know, she was flagging everything from the beginning.
Yeah.
She was like, this is messy, but I will try to do my best with this project. But it's probably for the best she didn't.
Yeah. I feel like at that point where your only name actor has left, your cameraman has left, your equipment has left, and your investor has left, you know what? Maybe it's just not in the cards.
Yeah, you'd think. With no major investor, no cameraman, no professional lighting, no sound crew, Norris was left scrambling to keep the movie alive. But instead of canceling the project, he took on even more personal debt, charging the $18,000 he needed onto credit cards.
Oh, yikes. That's not a good plan.
No, to fund what remained of the production. It was a huge, huge gamble, especially for someone setting out to make a movie their first time.
Yeah, someone with no experience. I mean, I'm all for like investing in yourself and believing in yourself, but
Sure.
also you got to look at the signs.
Well, and there are tools you need to be able to do that too.
Like film experience.
Right. So, despite the strain, Norris did try to remain enthusiastic throughout the filming. I did see some of the cast members say it wasn't a bad experience working with him. Like, he was pretty calm. He was collected, seemed like things were moving okay.
Okay.
Through Hike never became the film that Norris had envisioned. The low budget, the lack of equipment, it was not going to be commercially viable.
Yeah.
And although scenes were filmed, there was no real post-production funding. The 18 grand was for production, not post-production.
Yeah, you got to plan ahead for that kind of thing.
So there's no way to distribute, and there's no final product that Norris can show to investors.
Yeah.
What had started as a passionate attempt to break into the film industry ends up as an unfinished project, lost in the shuffle of countless other indie films that never make it to screen.
Cut your losses, move on. Even the biggest names in the industry have had projects fall apart, and they've been out thousands. Like, it happens. Like, if you're at that level and you're entry level, cut your losses, go be a PA on something.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to fail.
Absolutely. Fail hard and then figure out what you need to do to recoup.
Learn from it and don't run up that credit card debt.
For actors like Sean Gaston and Amber Muncie, the experience on working the movie was still a memorable one for them. It was a project filled with dedication and ambition, even if it didn't pan out the way that anyone had hoped. Robin Griggs, despite her short involvement in the project, continued acting in indie horror films until her cancer diagnosis in 2020. She passed away in 2022 at the age of 49.
Oh, that's young.
Yeah, leaving behind a legacy of soap opera and horror film work. So, as for Blaine Norris, his dream of becoming a horror filmmaker just didn't happen. His name, it was now more closely associated with the tragic events that followed the failed production of Through Hike than with the film itself. What was supposed to be his breakout became an eerie, unfinished reminder of how far someone can go in pursuit of a dream, even when it all falls apart. And now we're into the unfortunate murder of Randy Trimble.
Oh, geez.
The murder of Randy Trimble wasn't a crime of passion or spur-of-the-moment decision. It was a cold, calculated plan that had been brewing for months.
Ooh, months.
Brian Trimble and Blaine Norris meticulously plotted every detail.
What the fuck?
Treating it more like a scene from one of their favorite movies than the brutal reality it was. In their twisted minds, it wasn't just a murder, it was a means to an end. Brian and Blaine had become obsessed with Through Hike.
So Brian was back on the project?
I know he left the project, but he's still friends with
He's involved.
Blaine. He's involved in, I'm sure, talking about it still. They still see each other at work every day.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So even though he's not like actively participating, he was still like all for it, like wanting to make it happen and do anything he could because he couldn't give any money. But yeah, they were still friends. So we know that Norris had racked up all that credit card debt.
Yeah.
In making the movie. And Brian wanted to invest, but then Randy says no. So instead of backing down, Brian and Blaine come up with a horrifying solution. If Randy was out of the picture, Brian could cash in on her $100,000 life insurance policy and use that money to fund the movie.
Take out a loan from a bank. Get a second job. You don't immediately go to murder.
That's what I'm saying, because I was reading this and I was like, this is unnecessary. This is completely unnecessary, which makes me think there had to be something else there going on that I don't think we know about. I think Brian had a problem with Randy managing all the finances and telling him no, he couldn't do what he wanted. And we'll see that a little bit later on, but I just wonder, there had to be something else going on there.
Yeah, that just feels something had to have been happening.
Jump from
that you would just immediately go, well, I need money, so I guess I'll just murder my spouse.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's got to be something else going on.
I don't know. And they are obviously sharing some kind of delusion here. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think
Brian and
Blaine For sure. I think they were so obsessed with like making it happen and getting it done that they got overtaken by it. And it became, isn't it called like a folie à deux? Isn't that what the term is?
Is that what it is?
When two people have a shared delusion.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think that's what that means. But you know me and French words. So over the course of several months, the two men carefully map out how they're going to kill Randy.
The fact that they planned this for months.
Oh, they had it down. So Brian, who had MS symptoms, knew that he had to have an airtight alibi. And also, he couldn't be the one to kill her. He didn't have the physical strength to do it. So he's like, well, if I can't do it, someone else is going to have to do it. And my alibi needs to be like airlocked.
This is so fucked up.
Yeah. So this is where Blaine comes in. Brian offered Blaine $20,000 to kill Randy.
That he was going to take out of his $100,000 he thought he was getting from her?
Yes.
I see.
That's what I would assume, because I know he doesn't just have $20,000.
Yeah. Otherwise, he would have put that in the beginning.
Exactly. Well, Randy wouldn't let him.
True. Also, why do people think that when there's a life insurance policy out on someone, they're immediately going to get that money? Like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
But people, like, you hear it all the time. Like, they, took out this life insurance policy and were planning to cash in. It's like, honey, no, that's not the steps you take. That's not what happens.
No, it takes so long to get all that stuff in order.
If you even get it, because they have to be able to prove certain things. So,
So Blaine had been spending his free time, reading forensic textbooks and studying crime scene procedures. And he was like, oh, yeah, I can get away with this.
The fact that he used his time that way as opposed to actually like learning the craft of filmmaking.
Right. No qualms in saying yes to killing her.
It's like a little disconnect here.
I think so. Then we get to the date, January 10th, 2003.
Okay.
Randy had spent the day working at Hershey Medical Center, as she often did.
Mm-hmm. Because she's a speech therapist and amazing and making a difference in people's lives.
Exactly. And she had no idea that her husband and his best friend had decided that this would be the night that she dies.
Oh my God.
That evening, Brian arranged to have dinner with a friend at a TGI Fridays, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 40 minutes from their home, giving himself a solid alibi. Meanwhile, Blaine made his way to the Trimble house. Detective Chip Dougherty, who led the investigation after the murder, later described the crime scene as something straight out of a horror movie.
Ugh.
When Randy pulled into her garage that night, Blaine was waiting for her. What happened next was sheer brutality. Blaine attacked her immediately, using an extension cord to strangle her.
So he was just waiting in the garage?
Yep.
Ew. Imagine opening the door and you see that.
Yeah. But Randy was strong. She fought back. She clawed at Blaine, trying to break free, but he had come prepared.
Oh, God.
He pulled out a knife and stabbed her 27 times.
Oh my goodness.
According to Detective Dougherty, Randy's wounds were so severe that her hair was completely matted with blood.
Oh.
She had deep defensive wounds on her hands and face, evidence that she had fought desperately to survive. But Blaine was relentless.
That is overkill.
Yeah. Once she was dead, Blaine staged the scene to look like a burglary gone wrong.
Ugh.
He overturned cabinets, dumped drawers, and upended mattresses in an attempt to throw off investigators. Then he left. Brian came home later that night and called 911, playing the part of the shocked and grieving husband.
Ugh.
When Detective Dougherty and his team arrived at the scene, they immediately noticed that something wasn't right. The so-called burglary looked too staged.
Yeah.
It was the kind of sloppy crime scene that is like right out of a bad TV show. So Dougherty later says this was almost like a movie set.
Yeah,
and when you
exactly.
have somebody who doesn't know how to make a fucking movie
Yeah.
and is trying to like make it, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So stupid.
Like the overturning of the thing, that no one goes in and robs a house like that.
No.
That's not how that goes.
No.
Not that I have personal experience. These idiots.
So one of the biggest red flags was that Brian didn't have any blood on him. If he had just discovered his wife who was brutally stabbed in their garage, wouldn't he have like gone to her, tried to help her, tried to revive her, or at least
See if she's
touched her,
breathing.
see if she's breathing? But he didn't. Instead, he stood there crying without tears.
That's always the sign. Also, if you do see a loved one who's covered in blood, you don't want to touch them because you could screw up evidence. So even though that's not what he's doing, but just saying that.
No, of course. But I also understand if somebody ran in and was like, oh my God.
Yeah, because it's just your natural human instinct.
Right.
It's your loved one.
So for the first few weeks of the investigation, police were kind of stumped. While police were busy digging for leads, someone else had already figured it out. Brian's co-worker, Tracy Thompson, was suspicious the moment she heard about Randy's murder.
Oh, Tracy, I'm already liking you.
Tracy at the insurance company.
Tracy at the insurance company.
She said, quote, when I got into the office, everybody was already there. She later said, and I walked in and said, hey, did Brian kill his wife?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she wasn't just making wild accusations. She remembered something strange about Brian. Before the holidays, Brian had suddenly announced that he wanted a divorce. Because remember, this is taking place at the beginning of January.
Right.
And so over the holidays, Brian's telling some coworker or something, I want a divorce from my wife.
Did he give a reason why?
Well, that seemed odd considering that for years, Brian had portrayed his marriage as perfect. So then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I think I want a divorce. I don't think he was giving direct reasons.
Okay.
But then just weeks later, he changed his mind and said everything was fine. And now Randy's dead.
Not good optics, Brian.
Tracy also had a gut feeling that Brian wasn't the type to kill someone himself. But his friend, Blaine Norris, might be the one you want to look at.
Tracy knew.
Well, they both worked there, and she knew them both. And she's like, I don't think Brian would do that. Like, he's physically... Not that, like, people with MS can't kill, but...
She just knew he wasn't the type.
She just knew he wasn't the type. Detectives kept pressuring Brian, visiting him at work and home unannounced, slowly wearing him down.
Yeah.
He started making small slip-ups in his story. He started spending money differently.
Mm-hmm.
He suddenly bought an expensive new TV.
What a dumbass.
Something that Randy would never have allowed. Then in May 2003, Brian cracked. Detectives invited him in for another talk, and this time they asked a direct question. You didn't kill your wife, did you? Brian shook his head no. Then came the next question. But you know who did, don't you? Brian nodded. Yeah. Who was it? It was Blaine. And with that, the whole story unraveled.
Yep.
Brian confessed everything, including the fact that he had promised Blaine $20,000 to carry out the murder. Once Brian talked, it was only a matter of time before Blaine was arrested in October 2003.
Sure. Wait, so that was in May? It took them till October?
It took them till October to... But then again, that doesn't surprise me. Because this is like it is a confession, but they have to get the evidence together to prove it. Remember with the Gold case, Carol Gold, there was all that like rigmarole with like trying to figure out who and why, and then it's circumstantial, and then it gets thrown out if you don't have the right shit.
Yeah, you do have to play it so carefully.
Yeah. Both men pleaded guilty. Brian in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. And Blaine after realizing that all the evidence was stacked against him.
Yeah. And also, like, your friend ratted you out, dude.
Yeah. Detective Dougherty later said that Blaine showed no remorse when he described the murder in detail.
Ew.
He had read the forensic books, he had studied the crime scene techniques, and thought he had committed the perfect crime.
That's disgusting.
But what he didn't count on was Brian folding under pressure. Both Brian Trimble and Blaine Norris were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Great.
It's crazy to me because there had to, again, I want to go back to this like delusion because something about this project and them like putting their all into it. I don't know how to describe this without sounding like an asshole. What's that movie with Parker Posey and they do the community theater?
Waiting for Guffman.
Yeah. Something like that, where everybody has no experience, but they get so into like the dramatics of everything.
I mean, I guess Waiting for Guffman is not something that I would compare to this.
No,
story.
I know, but I'm just thinking, you know how like people get really wrapped up in stuff like that to the point of where it kind of makes them crazy.
Also, with them having zero experience in how the film industry works or even how the world works, it seems like.
Yeah.
And how old were they?
They were in their late 20s too. Late 20s, early 30s.
So it just sounds like something developmentally wasn't quite there, or I don't know. The fact that he was so quick to go, that Brian was so quick to go from I'm married and my wife is planning a family, I would assume that's something that they had talked about together.
Yeah, of course.
To murder? That's so baffling to me.
Yeah, and I mean, they got married in 2000, so they're only 3 years into their marriage.
And the fact that Blaine was like, okay, yeah, cool, I can totally do that.
Yeah.
And then I can, keep making this movie.
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen after that?
Right.
Were you going to sell the movie and people were going to be like, okay, how'd you get the funding? And you were going to be like, oh, well, I murdered my friend's wife, so we got her money. What? I was reading books about how to twirl a baton, and this guy is reading books about forensic evidence and how to create a crime.
Sure.
Different paths.
Yeah. I mean, I watch a lot of Forensic Files.
Sure.
A lot of crime TV shows.
Sure.
An exorbitant amount of unsolved mysteries.
Yeah.
Which I always forget are unsolved.
And you get mad at the end.
And then I get mad at the end when I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Because it's unsolved mysteries. Solve those mysteries, people. I live for the updates. I watch all that shit and I'm like, they find new ways to catch people all the time.
Yeah.
Just don't do it.
Don't do murder, people. We say it here often.
We do.
It's not the way.
Nope.
Not to make light of it. I'm just saying.
No, of course not. I mean, this is horrific. Randy Trimble's murder devastated her family, especially her mom,
of
Nancy
course.
Chavez. Randy had been an only child. She was her best friend, the center of the world.
Aww.
And the betrayal of Brian was just as heartbreaking as the murder itself. Nancy had trusted him.
Yeah, because that's her son-in-law.
Mm-hmm. Hugged him at Randy's funeral, never imagining that he was responsible.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I mean, this is the guy that your daughter walked down the aisle to see, and you were there for that, and you grieved with him at the funeral. And God, that's such a betrayal.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
It's too much. But in the years that followed, Nancy turned her grief into action, and she founded Randy's Race, Restoring Our Souls, and Randy's House of Angels.
Oh, wow.
Organizations that support survivors of domestic violence and advocate for children affected by abuse. Because while Brian and Blaine thought they could erase Randy's future, they couldn't erase her impact.
Yes.
And I want to read an excerpt from a memorial letter that was written after her murder that I found on Randy's House of Angels website from a person named Gabriella Bradley.
Okay.
Gabriella writes, quote, I am lucky to have had the chance to have known such a beautiful woman who has brought so much happiness and inspiration to all of us and everything that she encountered. Reading through all the letters, there was one common theme. Randy's smile, her laugh, her love for life. I only hope that through our memories of Randy and how she touched our lives, that we realize the effect of our words and our actions have on people. I would like to leave us today with one last thought, a line from one of the letters that I received from a dear college friend of Randy's. Perhaps the greatest gift you gave me is the memory of you.
Oh.
And that is the murder of Randy Trimble.
Oh, that's so senseless and horrible.
It's ridiculous and awful.
It really does make me wonder, when we do these cases, what are these criminals thinking is going to happen? Do they think they're just going to murder someone and then all of their problems go away and everything's going to be great and their lives are going to be amazing?
I think that Brian was willing to get her out of the picture because I think he probably saw her as being the head of the household and telling him no to things. I wonder if that played a factor. I mean, I can only speculate. I don't know.
Yeah.
These guys are in prison and they're never getting out.
Bye.
But, you know, it makes me wonder what else was going on there between them. Yeah, it just seems I don't get it.
Ugh,
maybe Blaine saw Randy as a...
It sounds like Blaine was just opportunistic and stupid.
I think so too, but I think, you know, they had the money to put into the project, but Randy was like, no, we're not investing this in a stupid little independent movie.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Blaine also was like, she's preventing this.
Oh, God.
But everything else was falling apart. Cut your $18,000 in losses. Go figure out how to pay that off.
Yeah.
And then move on to something else.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this doesn't have to be this film. Doesn't have to be Oscar-winning top of your career. Maybe try to learn a little bit something about the film industry first. Just a thought. Let us know your thoughts on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or shoot us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you could be like Teely, if we're saying her name correctly.
Teely.
And you can jump on over to Patreon at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast. And you'll see our little crime couch episode.
Yes. If you're a $5 member, I was going to say $5 member or up, but we don't have an up. So if you're a $5 Patreon member, you get the Crime Couch videos. All right, bye.
Bye.